Leadership is a journey, and you will not arrive any day soon. It's not a destination, it's determination. It's showing up every day. What Angela Duckworth calls grit. Okay? Try and try and try again. Yeah. Grit.
Welcome to Inside Edge, brought to you by the Lagos Business School Management Hub. Today on the show, we have Ademola Omitayo. Ademola Omitayo is currently the Commercial Director of British American Tobacco, West and Central Africa. He's a distinguished sales, marketing, and general management professional with over 20 years of experience across Sub-Saharan Africa, the United Kingdom, Asia Pacific, and the Middle East. As the former CMO and CCO at the British American Tobacco, overseeing 16 countries in West and Central Africa, he has achieved consistent double-digit growth in UOP over 4 years and spearheaded the transition to a multi-category business. He is also a dedicated leader and people manager. Committed to talent development, he has facilitated numerous training programs focused on leadership, sales, and marketing development. Welcome, Demola. We're happy to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Fichiku. Nice to be here with you.
Thank you. Today on the show, we'll be talking about bridging the generational gap, effective leadership for multi-generational teams. And I must say, you're the best person to handle this topic. So, Demola, we know today more generation coexist in the workplace than ever before, leading to frequent generational clashes. Managing people with diverse background is more of a really hard nutshell, but people don't point these things out. It's crucial for managers to understand these differences to foster a supportive work environment. Unfortunately, multi-generational workforce can also create intergenerational problems. These intergenerational conflicts are highly problematic, which brings me to the first question I would be asking you. Understanding generational differences. I've always found it very fascinating how a generation, whether it's the baby boomers, the Gen Z, the millennials, Gen Y, how they have unique characteristics. So, Demola, can you share your insights on these differences that define these generational categories in the workplace? And over the years, have you led multi-generational teams?
Thank you for that question, Ifechukwu. I think it's a very topical one, incidentally, something that I'm dealing with at work and outside work now. If you ask me, in my opinion, there are 4 generations in the workforce across Nigeria today.
Okay.
You've got the baby boomers, those that were born. Before I say that, I think it's good to just lay a sort of caveat that there are many points of view around the generations and how you bucket them. But I think the one I subscribe to, which is the most general one, says that baby boomers are those that were born, I think, between 1946 to 1965. You've got the Gen X. That was born between 1966 and 1980. You've got the millennials from 1981 to 2000. And then you've got the Gen Z, the almighty Gen Z from 2001 down to 2010, some say 2012. When you look at those generations, I think what causes the clash, as you rightly put it, or the chaos in the workplace is a lack of understanding of what each of those generations are, what their different unique motivations are, and then trying to align your work around that. So if I pause for a moment and look at the baby boomers, I think those are the guys that, you know, when you look at them, the way they grew up, they're known more for optimism. Mm-hmm. They are the kind of workers, you know, they respond to emotional appeal. They respond to how you talk to them.
Really?
They respond to, they make a lot of their decisions, you know, based on personal connections.
Sure.
Those are the generation that would say, oh, I know Mr. So and so. Go and see him. He will do this. He will do that. Those are the baby boomers. Those were our parents. Mm-hmm. Then you have the Gen X, 1965 to 1980. Those guys grew up in Nigeria. You know, in that period of economic turmoil and upheaval, when we were beginning to see some downturn, we were coming into our own. We came into our own very quickly. The independence, and then things went well. Things started going down. So those were the Gen X. They tend to be independent, somewhat, with what was going on then. They're somewhat skeptical of authority. Is the way I find them. They love humor. So it was our generation that you saw a lot of the comedians in Nigeria grow up. So these are the guys that like humor, and they make their decisions based on a perception that this brand understands my values and I can relate to this brand. They make their decisions based on what's in it for me, so to speak. Then you look at the millennials. Those are, they were digital pioneers, is the way I like to see them. So while in the days we were growing up, there really wasn't internet. Then internet came, and then you had this whole dial-up with all this stuff. The millennials grew up when internet was already established. So they are digital pioneers. And that led them to, a lot of information, faster information than we had in our time. They're the guys that start talking about work-life balance because they value experiences. They find that there's a lot going on out there, and I would like to really partake in that. So they value experiences, and you've got to manage them from that lens. Then you have the Gen Z. The Gen Z are those guys they're the digital natives. They grew up with digital technology, not like the pioneers. They were really in digital, and they're very connected. The millennials, the Gen X's, when you look at them across different geographies, you find some nuanced differences. But Gen Z in Nigeria is the same as a Gen Z in Canada. It's the same as a Gen Z in Asia, Singapore.
United in different.
They're exactly the same. They're fully connected. And those are the guys that they respond a lot to visual cues. I happen to have children that are Gen Z, and when I pick up their phones, sometimes I ask them, "Do you guys speak English? do you write English?" Because the way they communicate, it's completely different from us. Now take those differences into the workplace. That's a recipe for disaster if you don't know what you're doing. Because there's conflicts, there's turmoil, because these people are very different from the fundamental values, the way they are made up, the way they think. They're completely different. So you have to approach them very differently as well. What they think on politics, what they think on religion, what they think on societies, their values, pop culture, all of those things are different. So if you're going to manage that environment and manage it successfully as a leader, I think that there are a couple of things that one needs to have at the back of their mind. The first one for me is communication. You've got to know how to communicate clearly and communicate in a way that they will understand. We've looked at some of those differences, however short we have seen them. I need to make sure that what I am saying, what I am transmitting, is what you are getting. When I'm communicating with either a boomer, Gen Z, or a millennial. So communication for me is one of the first and most critical things that any leader in, what you described as an unsynchronous, was the word you used, unsynchronous work environment, has got to have at the back of their mind. The second one will then be empathy. Empathy, I think, which is something, is more of a lost art now in Nigeria, where you see it more from your lens as against trying to put yourself in the shoes of the other person. Where's this person coming from? This person didn't behave this way yesterday. Why is he behaving this way today? When you're able to empathize, have an open mind, and drive an open-minded culture, you will get the best from whatever generation that person comes from. Emotional intelligence is also a very big thing, that I find that you need to deploy. You need to know when to support them. You need to know when to direct them. It can't be a one-size-fits-all. Because these people are different. We talked about their motivations. They see religion, they see politics, they see culture, they have different values. So you've got to be emotionally intelligent in the way you engage with these employees, if I could use that term. There's also flexibility. How I was trained is definitely not the way you were trained. Where I'm coming from is not where you're coming from. How you think. Each and every one of us is a product of our experiences and our background. So if I'm not flexible to allow you to express yourself the way you know, to express yourself, do your work, provided the communication is clear in the way you see best fit, then there will be conflicts, there will be clashes. I think another one that I think is really important, for me at least, I find, is technological fluency. I'll explain myself. We all grew up, with technology advancing.
Yes.
Now there are all kinds of technological solutions or digital solutions out there. If you stay in the 2000s, you would miss out. You've got to be living in a 2024 technological mindset.
True.
That will help you to bridge the gap, particularly when you know that you are living or working with the people I've described as digital natives. Everything about them is digital. It's either they are sending an emoji or they are texting on Instagram. They're not using phone calls anymore. You've got to have a certain level of fluency to be successful in the workplace today and with that cohort. Sure. So it's very, very important for me, to look at it like that. And then you've got to drive a learning culture, which links back to what I said about technology. If you stay in the Stone Age, you become irrelevant very quickly. So you've got to drive a learning culture. You are learning and you're making everybody around you learn. So it's not just learning for the future. We've got to learn history. If we don't know where we're coming from, it's a bit difficult to be able to chart our path to say this is where we're going to. Yeah. And, not to take too much time, I think the final one I'll put in is what Angela Duckworth calls grit. I don't know if you've listened to her. She's one of the leading voices in leadership. She talks about grit. She says it's determination. It's showing up every day, being able to lay your principles out clearly. Yeah. Leadership is a journey. Sure. It's not a destination. And you will not arrive any day soon. So you've got to come today, repeat what you did yesterday, say the same thing to the members of the team. Even when it doesn't seem like it's working, try and try again. Yeah. Grit. So for me, I think those 5-6 points will be really critical if you're going to manage a multi-generational team.
Yeah, because what you just said now, it's actually true. Gen Z, how do you even communicate to them at work? Because they have this different way of speaking, this different way of talking, and you have to understand them to be able to even guide them, to be able to lead them. You see things like BRB and then like TTYL.
IDK. I'm like,
why can't you type in full? Like, just tell me this in full. And most of them, after the whole COVID, they don't want to come to work anymore. Like, I'd rather work from home. That was mind blowing. And which would get us to the next question, which I found out how the British American Tobacco delivers strategy. I happened to look at your page and I'm like, okay, so which was the skill set? And they focused on people leading at the organization. BAT reflects the environment of a workspace, inside the workspace and outside the workspace. I looked at how BAT looked at the diversity, ability, and the experience of each employees and how they make them deliver effectively to society. Now, this drives us to the next striking question I need to ask you. Demola, it's always interesting to hear about the dynamics of different generations working together. Sometimes it can feel like managing a team that includes both baby boomers, like we said, and the Gen Z, which is like trying to mix oil and water, which is really complicated. So, from your rich experience, what are the most common challenges leaders face when managing such diverse teams? And what strategies have you found effective in turning these challenges into opportunities?
Thank you for the question, Ifechukwu. I think the biggest challenge, in my opinion, is getting on the same page. Understanding their intrinsic drivers, their motivations, how this person is different to that person. Because when you have that understanding, it's like in any relationship. Yeah. When you start out, you are learning each other. And it helps you to have very clear and effective communication. Okay. Same thing in the workplace. If I don't understand the drivers of this person, what is the motivation, why this person is the way they are, then it becomes a bit more difficult for me to communicate effectively. My view of communication is effective when what I am trying to transmit to you is what you are getting back from the transmission. So one of the strategies for me, is communication. Like I said, spend the time at the start of that relationship to clarify. One of the things we started talking about since you bring in BAT, we're constantly evolving, constantly reimagining ourselves. One of the discussions we're having now at work is human conversations. How do you see this person beyond being an employee for you? What is happening outside work with this individual? When you have those kind of human conversations, it helps you to locate the individual and then speak in a language that this person will understand. The other point is around respect in the workplace. Respect for the individual, their contribution. It leads to a phenomenon. I think there was a Stanford professor, I forget her name now, that coined the phrase which we throw about a lot now in corporate Nigeria, psychological safety. Psychological safety, you've heard about it. Simply put, for me, there's so many long-winded definitions, but for me, it's group trust.
Okay. Group
in
trust.
In a team, group trust. I trust you, you trust me, and you've got my back, I've got your back, and we've all got the back of the job to be done. That's psychological safety.
Do you think it works in Nigeria?
I think it can. It's going to take, because we're very direct people, and sometimes we're very hierarchical. And those are some of the barriers to establishing a very effective and psychologically safe environment where I can speak my mind with no fear that there will be reprisal.
Yes.
That you wait for me at appraisal time.
Yes.
Yep. If there is no culture of psychological safety, then it begins to demise. I think is the only thing at the end of the day. We will die as a team. We will die as a team. We will become a very ineffective team. So it's the simple things we talked about. Communicate clearly. Have human conversations at the beginning of the relationship. Let's get to know each other. Don't skip. You probably have heard some of these paradigms around team formation or getting an effective team, where the team needs to form first, then storm, then norm, perform, and all of those business. Don't skip any of those steps. While you are beginning to form, have the human conversations. Not just about, okay, you have to deliver ABC. Ask questions. Know this person on a human level. I use the word human very, very, very deliberately. On a human, how are you as a human being, with feelings, with emotions, with family?
How do you want someone to treat you? Am I treating you the same way? That's
respect. And people will always remember how you made them feel.
Sure.
Yep. And when they feel like there are these two hormones. In my research, when I was doing my doctorate, I learned a little bit about this. There's cortisol and there's dopamine. Cortisol is the stress hormone.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
And dopamine is the feel good.
Oh, yeah, I have heard about that.
Yep. So, and that's why many of us, you find us on our phones and all of that. There's a dopamine hit. There's a dopamine hit. So if having a conversation with you raises my stress, I will run away from you. But if having a conversation with you helps me to think through, feel good about myself, then I'll always come to you. So it's always important at the start of that relationship, help them to feel valued. And I think my final point on that is value is a feeling, and that's really what it is. How do you make me feel valued? When I feel like I'm being valued, then I will always come to you because you help me feel good about myself.
True. Thank you so much. And when you talked about how to learn them so that you can actually learn yourself to understand them. Well, they say something in Nigeria, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So how do Gen Zs now try to teach these millennials and baby boomers that this is us and you have to get it our way?
Open-mindedness. You can't teach an old dog new tricks is a cop-out, in my opinion. Yes, we are set in our ways sometimes, we are formed in our opinions, But if you have a learning mindset, you will be willing to compromise, for want of a better word, to shift a little bit, to accommodate, and see, okay, there's some sense in that. You see, because you can't know it all. None of us is as smart as all of us. Yep,
but
not one person.
Find people that they're open to learning.
I think it's one of the things that have helped me in my career to be successful with my teams. You have to learn. You need to see learning from the lens of it's good for me, not necessarily because of you. It's good for me. So take me. Being successful living outside Nigeria was because I was willing to learn the culture and the way to engage with the different kinds of people. Sitting in London but talking to someone in Papua New Guinea, for example. Yep. I needed to be willing to talk at 2:30 a.m. my time because of their time. And then they felt this guy is going out of his way for me. And then they will go out of their way for me.
Sure.
So it's one of the things about emotional intelligence, really, the way I see it. Trying to understand that this person has some differences to me and I can leverage that to work for both of us.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that insightful advice. Now we're looking at the opportunities for innovation and growth. So Demola, one of the most exciting aspects of working with a multi-generational team is the different ways to do one particular work. You know, when I went on Google, the most searched thing I saw about the baby boomers and the I think it was Gen X and the Gen Z. Gen Zs were questioning Google. Why do baby boomers like to print, do paperwork? Why? Like, why are they not techie? Why are they not tech savvy? So it was a problem at the workplace because things to get done easily through the computer, through the iPad, through iCloud, they'd be like, no, we want to do this. We want to print it out. We want to feel the paper. Yeah. So do you believe that generational diversity can drive innovation and growth within a team? Could you share any past experiences that can illustrate this?
Yeah, I think first, I'm a firm believer in diversity being, if you're able to leverage diversity, it can create a great opportunity for innovation and for growth. And I'll give you an example. So I think it was 3.5 years ago, we got a new employee, Gen Z, by the way. And, you know, working with him, he was able to feel comfortable early enough to pitch an idea, which I supported. And as we speak today, that is a global tool that BAT is using. He's gone on to do greater things. We just promoted him recently, again, like this second promotion in that time frame. Because we dared to listen to him, we allowed him to flourish. Our organization is better for it. He is better for it.
Amazing.
I am better for it because I learned from that process of allowing him to flourish. You know, so for me, I think it definitely, if you are able to leverage it right, creates opportunity for innovation and growth. There's a story, you probably have heard it because you were talking about printing a minute ago, that I read some time ago, and it just buttresses the point around, you know, working smarter, creativity and innovation.
Yeah.
It was said that there was this manager that needed, I think it was 50 sheets of paper. And he just said, I need somebody to go to the box there and bring me 50 sheets of paper. So you had the millennials in the team and the Gen X's counting 50 sheets of paper. And then 2 minutes later, this Gen Z comes, hands him 50 sheets of paper. And he's like, what's going on here? How did you do it so quickly, so accurately? He said, you asked for 50 blank sheets of paper.
Yeah.
I printed 50 blank sheets of paper.
Oh my God.
And there you are, working smarter. So what would have taken, because if someone asked me then, not now, I'm better now.
Yeah.
If someone asked me then for 50 sheets of paper, I would have probably counted 50 sheets of paper. But here was this Gen Z, because they like to make their lives easier. And that's an opportunity for creativity.
Yeah.
The phones and the laptops and the iPads we're using today, they made our lives significantly easier. Again, the concept of being a digital native. So it went on, blank sheet, A4, click print, bam, 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 bam,
Oh my
50
God,
sheets, here you are. And there you go.
That is amazing. Because I remember when the CEO of Apple when they asked him in an interview and said that, who are the best people to work with? He said, I love working with lazy people. And everyone was quiet for a second, and he was like, you know why? They bring in different ideas to do something. He doesn't want the same set of work ethics, the same set of work, system. He wants something different.
You see, when I first heard that comment, I got into a debate, probably a digression here. Gen Zs are not lazy. Okay. It's a perception that we have of them. Of course, some of them are lazy. Some of my Gen X people are lazy as well. But because they do things differently, we tend to see it as being lazy. Somebody will describe that example I just gave as laziness. Why couldn't he count it?
True.
But he wasn't being lazy. True. He was being smart. And it worked for all of us. You see. True. So Tim made that statement, and there was hula baloo in some quarters about why would he call people lazy, and it's a perception we have about them, but they are not lazy. They're different, and we just need to harness it. Water can be good, can be bad. It depends on how you treat it.
Work smart and not work hard.
Absolutely.
What advice would you give to leaders who are currently trying to grasp the challenge of trying to create unity in the workspace and maintain this peaceful, productive environment with this different generational names coming up? And do you believe that generational names can be the same set for, what they call zodiac signs? Do you believe that's the same thing?
I'm not very familiar with zodiac signs. Okay. I apologize. It's something that I've deliberately avoided. Don't like confusion. If I use myself, because oftentimes when we talk about leadership, we think the leader is the oldest, most experienced person on the team. Not necessarily. There's this paper by Joseph Raelin, Raelin. I think he wrote it in 2011 or 2012, where he was talking about the 4 C's of leadership. And he was talking about leadership being concurrent, collaborative. I forget the other 2 C's. It will come back to me. You see, in that paper, he was talking about how all of us can be leaders at the same time, because it's concurrent. Yeah, and leadership is not about an individual; it's about a collective. Yes, that's one of the C's. It's collective. It's about a collective. When you look at it from that lens, it takes away, this is our leader, to the first person you lead anyway is yourself.
Is yourself.
Self-leadership. Then you are able to, I forget his name, one of the faculty at LBS, I think you've had him on your podcast before, was talking about leadership being 360, and it starts with the self. Henry. Yes. And it starts with self. I completely agree with him that it starts with self. Sure. It's 360.
Sure.
And when you look at it from that lens, it helps you to see that everybody can be in a position of leadership per time. And when you have it like that, then you are able to then leverage different things to your team. I think for me, 2 things that, more than 2, but first 2 that I would like to talk about, if as a leader you're going to lead these teams and not get into problem. The first one will be vulnerability.
Okay.
You don't know it all.
True.
You are not all knowing. You are not God. And you need to demonstrate that to them and understand who has this strength, call for it when it is needed. The other one is authenticity. Nobody likes to be deceived.
Yeah.
Nobody likes a pretender. Yeah. I saw a mind-blowing definition of authenticity a couple months ago, where the person said authenticity is honesty minus self-righteousness plus vulnerability is equal to authenticity.
Oh my God.
Honesty minus self-righteousness plus vulnerability equals authenticity.
That is actually
honesty. Be real.
Yes.
Don't stay on a high horse and say you know it all. Take out the self-righteousness and be vulnerable. Put yourself out there. It's a risk, I know.
It is a risk
to be vulnerable. But what comes out at the other end of it is beautiful. It's authenticity. And people, they gravitate towards authentic leaders. And authentic leaders are the most successful.
True.